So hi everyone. Have a good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on your time zone. So my name is Tiago Costa, and I'll be delivering this today webinar about how can you arm your Azure infrastructure. So first of all, let's just there you go. So about Wintelec's core services. So Wintelec is a company that is doing consulting, also instructor-led training, and also on-demand training. As you can see here on the slide, so several awards have been given to Intellect due to its quality of the services. They are also Microsoft certified partners, Xamarin Premium Consulting Partner. So I think the Microsoft logos there talk by themselves about the experience of all the consultants that work with Intellect. Also, consultants that work for Intellect already wrote over 30 books. So you can see just some of them. We're not going to put all the books in the slide. It will be just too boring for everyone to see the huge quantity of quality books that some of the consultants that work with Intellect already wrote. So I won't address this slide for now, but those in the audience that can stay until the end, we are going to have some free services and discounts that you can take advantage of if interest. I will show again this in the end, okay, and then we can talk a little bit more about some of the discounts that you can see in here. Doing a small presentation about myself. So my name is Tiago Costa. As I said before, I work as a cloud architect and advisor for several companies around the world, mainly in Europe and also in the United States. I'm also a trainer, and I deliver webinars like today. I deliver instructor-led training. I'm also the author of some courses, and I am also a speaker in some events, like, for example, Microsoft Ignite. I'm also an MVP for Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Certified Trainer, and I'm also a Microsoft Certified Training Regional Lead, which is an award that gives me a direct connection to the Microsoft Learning folks. You have all my contacts down there, so my email is literally the fastest way to reach me, and also my Twitter, so it's always on my phone, and I carry my phone everywhere I'm going. Also, my blog, tiagocosta.com, where I usually write about Azure. So if you want to get all the cool news about all the cool new services that are coming out on Azure, just check my blog about it. So let's get started with today's presentation. So let's imagine that you want to build something like this. And this is literally just an example. Of course, you could build something else on Azure, but I have an Azure Active Directory. Okay, I have here, okay, internet. I can have Azure DNS, an application gateway. Then I can have, for example, a web app here. I can have a function app that will be triggered to a queue. Doesn't matter literally if this queue is a storage or a service bus queue for our design here. Then I can have some Redis cache, some data storage with Azure SQL databases, Cosmos, Azure Search, and also a blob storage account here with some static content, and all of this being served using Azure CDN. So this is imagine that I want to build something similar or something like this. Of course, this is a lot of clicks in the Azure portal. And we can build this by just clicking on the Azure portal, and after probably if you're comfortable using the Azure portal, probably let's just say that in 40 minutes, 45 minutes, you're going to have this infrastructure built, which is okay. It's fine. That's okay. But imagine that is not the way to do it, okay? Like clicking on the portal. Imagine that you want to deploy this over and over and over again. If you're doing something like this, hey, look, of course, that you need to automate this in some way. Also, you probably want to implement this and join this in a continuous integration or a continuous deployment pipeline that you should have in whatever tool you're using. So what is the challenge here? Okay, so the big challenge here, first of all, is doing version controlling of our infrastructure, because I'm starting to build a project, I'm starting to build a solution, and of course, I don't start with the infrastructure right away fully corrected. Sometimes we need to tweak here, tweak there a little bit, and also, how can I control all that? Also, again, probably in getting back to the infrastructure that we saw before, um, probably we're going to have some different roles in our company involved. Probably going to have someone around security. We're going to have someone from the infrastructure as a service components that we're going to have in our solution. And even, for example, the data layer, probably you're going to have some data experts taking care of that. So all of these peers, they need to provide some feedback, and they need to review the design if you are comfortable with the design that you're doing for the solution. Also, all the dependencies that you might have from code and infrastructure, because of course there are services that will depend on others. Like, let's just give an example. I have an app service, and I'm saying, well, I'm going to have some logging around something in my app service, and I need a storage account to drop all the logs. Well, I need to have a storage account already created to do all that. And well, this is also basically a dependency that I might have. And also CI/CD pipelines, like I said before, maybe we want to integrate this, so every time that we deploy our solution, so new code, hey, I want to deploy a full new infrastructure, why not? Okay, and we have some slides talking about the advantages of doing so. So all of these are challenges that we have. And so to respond to all these challenges, what we have is the concept of infrastructure as code. So infrastructure as code is no more than how can we manage and provision computing infrastructure using what? Using a declarative approach. And so just with basically, and let's just talk about real names here, like in Azure, and the ones that I'm going to focus will be on ARM templates. So I can just build ARM templates using a declarative approach that then I can just explain to the ARM infrastructure what is the final version of the infrastructure that I want. And you can tell me, hey, yeah, okay, but look, you can't just do that with PowerShell, or you can just do that with Bash. Yeah, okay, that's kind of true, yeah. But for example, let's imagine and let's talk about specifically about PowerShell and, for example, creating a virtual machine. If I want to create a virtual machine, so I need to create a VM config, so VM configuration. And on that VM configuration, I need to create, and I need to say, what is the image that I'm going to use? What is the VNet? Oh, VNet. Oh, wait, I need to create a VNet. So on top of this, because the PowerShell needs to have a proper order, you need to create a VNet, or you need to reference an existing VNet where you want to deploy your virtual machine. Then again, the same thing for a subnet, the same thing for disks, the same thing if you want to do some kind of logging for an Azure storage account. Even talking about networks, still talking about networking, you still need a NIC, you still need an IP, you still need to attach that to the virtual machine. So all of this, you need to have a proper order. And if you fail on something, well, you need to take care of that. So you need to write PowerShell code to clean up the stuff that you already created. Or when you're creating like a VNet, because I'm creating a new one, well, if the VNet is already there, okay, so just make a reference to it and do not create. So you need to do like an if statement, checking, well, if it already exists, do this, this, and this. Well, just to make it short, in the end, you thought about having a simple PowerShell script. Now it's a huge PowerShell script that has hundreds of lines just to create a simple virtual machine. in ARM templates because of the declarative approach that we have. So some of these issues are not just there because it's the way that how this just works. Also leveraging version controlling. So version controlling is also important because, well, in the first version of our infrastructure was like this. Okay, we changed something, why it was changed. So maybe we need to associate, like, we did the request from what business request did we make this change in the infrastructure. All of this is something that we need to do today, and we need to leverage today. And when I'm doing consulting for some of my customers, and for example, even yesterday, I was in a very large customer that works in the oil industry, and they don't have anything like this. It's a brand new customer for me, so it's I have a lot of stuff to there. So they don't have any culture about doing infrastructure as code. And I was like, oh, but how do you guys do this? And they just said, oh, so we have like just some PowerShell code somewhere, and we do this always with PowerShell because, well, they're still new to Azure. And I was like, okay, that's okay. We can improve that for sure. But this is the reality in several companies, and sometimes I share some comments with some other colleagues, some other peers, and they say, yeah, like a lot of companies there are still doing like this. So this, well, of course, will lift some good DevOps practices, and of course, it will enable also the continuous delivery by all the reasons that we already mentioned. Some of the benefits, okay, that we have with infrastructure as code. First of all, consistency. So it's, for me, when we're talking about large customers, it's very easy to have someone doing something, a team that just do something with all the good ways. They just do it in one way. Then we have another team that they are very nice people. They're trying to do their best, but they do it okay, but in a different way. Well, we can't have this. The company is just one. We need to have consistency across all our Azure subscriptions, or else in a very easy or short way, we're going to have a huge mess around our Azure subscriptions. So consistency to achieve a standardized provision and deployment mechanism, it's really a must. Also accelerating, because look, this will accelerate the provisioning and the deployment rapidly for sure, because like, okay, the first times when people are getting used to the new way of working, they need to start to build the ARM templates, or even if they are going to use something else, yeah, okay, they might take a little bit more time in the beginning, but if they need to deploy that infrastructure over and over and over and over again, well, the first time they take a little bit more time, yeah, for sure, that's not a lie. But the next times that they need to do that, well, it's just going to be much faster doing something like this. Also, like we're saying, the reusability that we have with this. If we use this kind of JSON code all and over again with ARM templates, it's like awesome, because I can use the same JSON code that I do for production for other for other environments. I just need to tweak the ARM templates a little bit so that can be deployed to several environments, and we're going to see that too in a further slide. Extensibility. So the easy way that JSON and ARM templates have to incorporate additional items, and then even other providers, like for example Terraform, for example. So it's really easy for me to have something. Let's just give an example. I have a customer that they basically change their project, and it's already in production and everything, and they said, oh, now we need to do this. More of these features, to have these features, and I'll just look at them. Okay, yeah, we need to change slightly the infrastructure that we have, because basically we just need another storage account. I basically just changed the JSON code, and the next time when we deploy all the code that was around that, we just deployed also, okay, the JSON code, so the ARM template that also had that storage account. And of course, we did this in dev, in other environments first. We tested it, worked perfectly. When it went to production, the customer was really afraid because it was the first time they were doing this. Was pretty fun to watch. But in the end, they were pretty happy that they did this, and that was really working. They were pretty excited about it. Okay, so it's something that is also something that we can do. So what do I get with infrastructure as code? Independence, testing production like environments. That is like super important. The first one because, well, it's not like PowerShell that is a declarative. You just declare what you want. In here, you just say, hey, this is the final thing that I want, and then we're going to basically to respond to that. Testing production, like I just said before, I can have a very similar production environment and then just say, hey, I want to test. So you just deploy a full infrastructure that is a production-like environment, basically. You deploy your app, you deploy all your tests, you just test all this, and you have a very similar environment, even not to say the same environment that you have for production. So you can test without affecting the real production environment. Also, simplify the rollback, and that is like totally true. So I have, for example, a case of a customer that, so one time they had they just incorporate some changes that, let's just say, they were not the best ones. I think everyone understands this. So they messed up a little bit there. Because they still have all the other deployments, they could just redeploy a whole environment, and well, they were working. Okay, they could roll back pretty simply to an old environment that was the previous environment that they knew it was pretty stable. They didn't have any issues, but that one, because they had a lot of new features, they needed to tweak it a little bit better. So they just give it like some more times for devs and testers to just work it out. And then after a few weeks, they just redeployed it again, and well, now it was okay. Also provision multiple environments. So this is pretty fun. I have a customer, for example, that their pre-sales team used to open a ticket to create a full environment of their solution, which is quite complex, to be totally honest with you. And there was someone in the IT doing basically this a few good hours a day. Okay, basically prepping environments. Right now, no one is doing this. So the pre-sales engineer just goes to a portal, just says and clicks and makes some choices about what he wants, just press OK, and then in the back there is ARM templates working for him that will just deploy the full infrastructure, which is like super awesome, okay? Because there is literally around there doing this, okay? So it's pretty awesome what we can do with this. Also, practice deployments. I can just practice my deployment. I think everyone understands this one. And continuously delivering stable environments, because every environment that I'm going to deploy, look, it was already tested before, so it's pretty stable. Only if we incorporate new changes, but well, at least the old part will be stable. There is like no one clicking on things that they can just mess up a step or something like that. Here we are not going to have something like that. That will never happen. What kind of tools can I do this? So what kind of tools can I use to do this? Of course, ARM templates, and ARM templates will be what we are going to talk about here. I can also use other tools like HashiCorp, Terraform, Chef, Puppet, Ansible. There are literally dozens of different tools. Probably these are just some of the big names, and of course, some of you are already saying, "Oh yeah, and you can also use this and that." Yeah, for sure. Okay, there are other tools for sure. Okay, so let's just concentrate here a little bit on ARM templates and how can ARM templates be our infrastructure as code solution. And I just focus on this, to be totally honest with you, just because it's the native one on Azure and it's just included on Azure, so you're not going to pay more for using this, okay? And so is the one that everyone can just start to use. So talking about ARM templates, so Azure Infrastructure as Code solution. This does not work only for infrastructure as a service, like I already heard that by some customers. This also works for PaaS and even for serverless. So when we're talking about having serverless like Azure Functions, like Event Grid, Service Bars, all of that, yeah, all of those resources can be created and configured using ARM templates. And also, we can group resources together. We can deploy, update, or delete in single operations. And we can also have something that I really like is the one template many environments, like we already talked when we were talking about the infrastructure as code. Because if I tweak a little bit my template, that same template, I can use it to deploy production, UAT, testing, the development. Just call whatever you guys want to your environments. Talking about tooling, so what kind of tools can I use to do this? Look, of course, you can use Notepad if you want. If you're a Linux lover, hey, just Vi. Okay, you can use that. But of course, there are tools that will help us developing our ARM templates. And in here, for example, I would just say Visual Studio Code. It's, to be totally honest here, it's kind of my favorite one. Visual Studio Code, by the way, it's free, so you don't need to buy something, okay, or a license. You need to go inside your company and say, hey, I need like a full Visual Studio license to work with this, and it's pretty light too, so it's two big advantages. And for doing ARM templates, it's something that I really enjoy. You can also use the full feature of Visual Studio, which is already paid. So you need to have at least like an MSDN license, which is not bad because it's also going to give you Azure credits for you to try your stuff. So it's always a must to have an MSDN license if you're going to work with Azure. Then we have Git. So Git as our basically source control manager. And I'm a huge fan of Git. I used to use TFS back in the days, and I was using TFS all over the place. But I have to confess that for these kinds of projects today, I'm more today of a Git lover than a TFS lover. Also, Azure DevOps. So this is the old, it's the new name for the old Visual Studio Team Services. Which also had a previous name called Visual Studio Online. And this is the place to do DevOps today on Azure. So this is one of our demos. We're going to use DevOps to deploy an ARM template and everything. So this is the place, okay, to do all that. Of course, I can still use PowerShell and CLI to deploy our ARM templates. That's a valid option. I can also deploy my ARM templates through the Azure portal. On the Azure portal, you just need to go there, create a new resource, template deployment, import your ARM template, and just, okay, create, etc., and you're good to go. But of course, we want to automate this with a continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline. We are going to do it on Azure DevOps. And also REST API. So I can just use a REST API. So remember the demo that the example that I was saying about the pre-sales engineer that they need to create a very complex environment. So what we're going to do is just build an app for them, and then in the back we are doing all the REST API stuff. Okay, so we're just calling the REST API directly. So benefits that we see on this: deploying, manage, and monitoring all as a group, repeatedly deploy your solution. The declarative templates, this for me, it's like the holy grail of the ARM templates, to be totally honest with you. We can also define dependencies between them in the ARM template, because, well, sometimes we have them like, I can't create a subnet without a VNet. I can't create a VM, okay, without the disks. So all of this will be dependencies that I need to say that in my ARM template. I need to inform my ARM template about those. And of course, apply access control to and apply tags to resources. Today, we're not going to talk about tags. but like tags, it's also a very, very important concept for doing compliance. Maybe it's a good topic for another webinar. But always tag your resources. Always tag your resources. Okay. So working with templates. So this is basically what is a ARM template. ARM template is a JSON file, and you're going to have several sections. And in here, as you can see, I have like an empty, let's just call it an empty ARM template over there, which I have like just a schema. So this is just saying, okay, that's the schema that I'm going to use. Then I'm going to have the content version. You can and you should create versions on your ARM templates so that you can track changes, so that you can understand, oh, this was deployed using version X or Y or Z. It's just easier, okay, to understand which version you are using. Then the parameters area. So, well, you can have parameters or not, but usually we have, and this is the way that we have to use and reuse the same ARM template for different environments. Like, for example, I can just call here a parameter called environment. Then I can just use, when I'm talking about creating resources, I can just say, hey, look, I want a resource, the name of this will be based on the parameter X that someone just put it on the parameters section. I can also use variables. So variables, they will just, using functions, they are just going to make changes, and they can use also parameters data. Like, for example, the environment that I was saying. I can have like a VM name. So you can just create a VM name, and then in the end or in the beginning, you just say, well, dev, because it's what comes from the parameter value. So because someone were just deploying this, they just said dev. This is our dev environment. So the name will be affected by this. Then, of course, you can also create resources, and like the name of the VM can be referentiate you have over there. Now, of course, the resources section, okay? I want to be in that specific region over there. So this is the kind of things that I can use, okay, on my resources. And of course, I can have, as you can see there's an array. So those brackets there, basically I can have more than one resource. I can have multiple resources. So one template creating multiple resources. Then I have the output. So the outputs is pretty awesome. Imagine that I'm creating a web app, and as you can see, like in the app service web apps, they need to have a globally unique name. Sometimes we really don't care about the name that we're going to have on this, because we're going to use custom domain, for example, and we're going to redeploy this all and over again. So we really don't care about the naming there. But I need to know the name so that I can then deploy my code. And to deploy my code, I need to know the name of the web app. But I don't know it yet, because I'm just going to use a function that is called genUnique that is going to generate a unique name. In the outputs, as you can imagine, I can just put, okay, what was the final name that you have created that? And that way, okay, we know, and then we can use that variable as an output, that output variable as an input in the next step of my pipeline that I'm deploying. I'm going to deploy the web app, so the code of the web app to that specific web app. So like I said, parameters, we have here some examples of parameter 1, type string, parameter 2 is a secure string, and then you can have also values. Variables, like I was telling you, so I can use a function in this case. For example, I'm concatenating a parameter called p1, and then I'm adding -web-sp-SQL. So this is kind of stuff that I can do. On the resource, so we have here an example of creating basically a web farm. So this is creating an app service plan. And what kind? Okay, it's an app. I just tell you what is the API version, what is the type of this, the kind. Okay, it's an app, and the name. As you can say, I'm getting the name from a variable that is called app service plan name. I get the location for a parameter called location, and I have the SKU of this one. Okay, this is the ones that can be the free, share it, standard S1, S2, S3, and the P1s, P, etc. So I can just grab, oh, that's the SKU name. Okay, just for example, for an environment that is like development, hey, I can leave, for example, with a share it. Let's imagine that, but for production, I need an S1. So this is the kind of things that I can differentiate between environments. So let's do a demo, okay? And in this demo, I'm just going to create and deploy a simple ARM template. So it's not a big deal. It's just creating here a simple environment, and let's just get started to prep a lot of things. So I'm just going to start to open, okay, my Azure portal here. I already have here a username that I put it here in place for us to use, and I have a fantastic password too. Yeah, okay, great. So now let's just wait for it to load. I'm just going to increase here the size. Well, let's just see if this is usually fine. So first of all, I'm just going to create a resource group here. So I'm just going to add a new resource group. I'll just call to this resource group. It's just going to be webinar, let's just say SA, which is basically a storage account, because I'm just going to create a storage account. In my case, because I'm in Europe, I'm just going to select West Europe because it's the one that is just faster for me. Okay, so there you go. By the way, you can find that using a fantastic website called azurespeed.com. Okay, so there you go. If you want this, so this is the domain, azurespeed.com. Okay, and then you guys can just check out this. So there you go. I have my, let me refresh. There you go, webinar S8. So as you can see, I don't have any resources over here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to copy here this. I'm going to open Visual Studio Code. So like I said, I love Visual Studio Code. So I'm just going to open a file, okay? And this is a file that is on GitHub. And basically, as you can see in here, so let me just put this slightly bigger for everyone. I think it's good like this. So I have some parameters here, and this area here on the parameters area, okay, I'm basically creating here a storage account name. So I have like a default, which is a standard LRS. I have the allowed ones, the allowed values that I have for this. And then I have kind of a description here. I have another one called location. Let me just, oh my God. There you go. I have another one here called location, okay? That in this case, what we're doing here is it's just going to grab the location of the resource group, okay? That you don't need to do this because you can have resources in a resource group that are in a different location than the resource group. I really don't advise you this because if, for example, one of the data center where your resource group or the region is down for some strange reason, you cannot edit anything, okay, on your resource group because all those actions needs to happen on that region. Okay, so be careful with that. It's not that your solution is going to be down; it still works, but you cannot edit anything that is that you need to basically edit the resource group. Okay. So but there you go. Then I have some variables here. In my case, I have a storage account name that I'm concatenating store with a unique string. Okay, so that way, see, I'm sure that this will always create a resource group that, a storage account that is going to be unique. Then I have the resources that in our case, I just have one resource, as you can see over there. So this is just a storage account. You have a variable name here that is the storage account name, a location, an API version, a SKU name, which is again a parameter that you see in here, and then account. We're already creating this as a V2 storage account. So then, of course, look, I could just edit this a little bit and just do some changes. Well, in my case, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to basically do here save as, and let's just call this, for example, here my computer. Let's just grab this in here and data, and let's just call this Azure deploy. Okay, so I already saved this. Now what I'm going to do is, let's just call here the Azure Cloud Shell. So there you go. Just wait a second for the Cloud Shell. So I'm just going to do this with Bash. Okay, so I'm just going to use AZ group create, and I'm just going to create a resource group for this. Okay, and then I'm going to do the deployment, which is using a command called AZ group deployment, as you can see in here. So what I'm doing here is pretty simple. So I'm going to create a group, okay, here, and then I'm going to deploy a template. And I'm just saying, yeah, just deploy this to the resource group that I'm going to create, and then the template file will be in here. And then it says .json too. So I need to upload my files. So easy way to upload files through this is just upload like this. And if I just go here, data, and then my Azure deployment. So there it goes. I'm just deploying this over there and enter the resource group name. So let me just call this webinar, and let's call new SA. Okay, there you go. And then enter the location again, West Europe. Oops, Europe. Yeah, there you go. So this is the Amsterdam one. So there you go. I already have at least a resource group. So if we close this one there and we refresh, see, I already have the webinar in USA. And if we go to deployments, you should see a deployment there. See, it's being deployed. And I'm just deploying a small ARM template. So if we just wait a little bit, basically, believe me, okay, we're going to get, okay, a new storage account in here. A storage account usually takes like 40 to 50 seconds to be deployed there. So it doesn't take. So there you go. Succeed. So if I go over view blade, there you go. I have my storage account here. See, cool, right? So let's just close this. And this is a pretty easy code that I can just write. Okay, yeah, it's awesome. And basically what I did is I just created here a template, okay, and I just deployed it straight away to Azure. Okay, it's awesome. Of course, I could just save this code somewhere, etc. So let's just talk about RM templates and continuous integration and continuous deployment. So when we're talking about this, look, I can integrate the infrastructure creation in continuous integration and continuous deployment of pipelines. And this is something that I really like, and it's something that I really see big advantages, like automation. And I always have a saying like automate, 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 because when you're doing this all the time, and this is a motto, by the way, that I even use in my personal life, because I don't have time to do everything that I need to do. And I think most of you probably are pretty busy people too. And I really need to automate certain aspects of our professional life, and why not some of the personal life. So in here is kind of the same thing. It's like, if I need to deploy this over and over again, come on, I'm not going to open a ticket to someone to do it, or I'm not going to click on the portal, or even running a PowerShell script. Okay, it's a PowerShell script, but someone has to run it. I want to create some automation around that. Also get a fresh infrastructure with every deployment. If you put this in your continuous integration, continuous deployment of your solutions every single time, okay, you're going to have a new infrastructure, fresh infrastructure, okay? This led us to something that I always say this to every student, every company that I work with. Treat your infrastructure as cattle, not as your pet. Okay? So I really don't care if I have an infrastructure, then I can kill the infrastructure. I just smash the infrastructure with a new one. Okay? So this is the way that we want to treat our infrastructure. And of course, when working, if you're working with infrastructure as a service, like for example, virtual machines, you might, this really depends on the workload and security things that you might have in your company, but you might not even need to patch your infrastructure anymore. If, for example, from time to time, in that time you're okay with it, you have a new machine. That machine, if it's based on the existing images on the marketplace, like let's imagine a Windows Server machine, that machine already has the latest update. So you really don't need to patch your machine. So you just need to smash the infrastructure and then rebuild it again and again and again and again and again and again. And you always get a patched infrastructure, okay? So let's see a final demo here, which is basically creating ARM templates, okay, and using Azure pipelines to do all of this. Okay, so well, yeah, now I need a resource group, so let's just create another one here. Let's just call this webinar. Okay, and again, let's just choose here West Europe, review, create. Okay, so there we go. So now I have a resource group called webinar, correct? There we go, webinar. So this is our, as you can see, of course, it's totally okay. It's totally totally empty. So let's go to Azure DevOps, and this is my Azure DevOps. So let's just wait a little bit. Huh? So out. I don't want to use that user. I want to use another user. Oh my God. There you go. So let me just do this, and I think that everyone should use this one. It's using two-factor authentication, so I just need to approve in my phone. There you go. So this is my Azure DevOps. As you can see, this is just a demo one that I have. First of all, I need to create a new project. So let me just put this bigger, and there you go. So I'll click here where it says create a new project, and I will just say here ARM webinar. Okay, so there you go. Let's just put this like this. All right, you could just do a description here. I could just say that this is a private, or if it is a public one, in my case, private is just fine. You can even click in advanced version controlling system if you want Git or the Team Foundation version control. I'm going to Git. So I'm just going to create my project. And creating a project is really it's really quick. Okay. So let's just wait a little bit. Oh, there you go. Okay, so, and I'm not going to explain today Azure DevOps here, but of course, look, you can have boards, you can have work items here, and let's imagine that you have a request from business saying, yeah, I need to do this, and then you can track down, okay, that work item, it's over here. That's just why I'm deploying this new infrastructures because of that work item. So this is the kind of tracking that then you can see. I'm going straight away, okay, for repos. So let me just, yeah. So now I need to open a folder here. Okay, I already have a folder, by the way, that already prepped here. Where it is, it should be AZ Webinars. There you go. Then I have two files in here. So let me just open the command line. Let me just open code dot to open our Visual Studio Code with this folder open here. As you can see, so I have an Azure deploy and I have a parameters file. And this is a good one, by the way. If you're using PowerShell or Azure CLI, because the name of the file is the same. Only changes is the dot parameters. You don't even need to specify what is the parameters file. By default, it will act. And then you can have two different names if you want. And then in that case, of course, you need to say what you need. In here, in the Azure, so in the Azure deployment, as you can see in here, I have a parameters part that I say here, what is the web app name, okay? What is going to be the SKU? In my case, I'm just saying it's an S1. The location, again, the resource group location. So in my case, will be West Europe. And I have some variables, okay? And I have here basically the resources. So this will create me the app service plan. So the ones that are comfortable with this, the ones that are not comfortable with this. So for a web app, I need to have an app service plan where my web apps will basically run on that compute. And I have here the name will be the variables, okay, the app service plan name. The location, again, parameters location, the SKU parameter SKU. And then I have my web app. So my web app is this part in here, okay? And this part here, I'm just saying, well, it's an app, okay? I want this name. This is the location. The properties of the server farm ID, it will be basically the one that we just created up there. And this will depend on exactly that one. So I'm depending on the farm ID that will have basically this name. And I can have the output here. See the output here? I'm just saying, okay, what is the app portal name? Okay, what is the app name here? And this will basically be helpful for me if I want now, again, to basically, when I am deploying this, when I finish the deployment of the ARM template, I can just basically connect the deployment of the code of the app. So deploying the app itself, the code. And for that, I need this variable. Okay, so this is what I have here. Let's check the parameter file. So the parameter file, I'm just saying here, okay, so this is going to be the value. Let's just change this like to something like webinar, and then let's just put some gibberish here so that we are sure that this will not end. So basically, this is like a brand new name. I could just put a generate unique one, but I'm not in this case. I'm not doing that. Okay, so this is great. I can start to develop it. Where the files are? In my computer. That's horrible. I don't want that. So a good approach is to use Git. So I already have here my basically I already have Git installed. So using the bash, so I'm just doing a git init. Okay, so this will initialize this folder as a Git repo. So as you can see now, I have like a .git folder over there. Then that folder will have some files that will control this as a Git repo. So now I need to go where? Let's just go over here. So let me just copy this part over here so that I can create an origin. So let me just create this, okay? And now let's just try to do a git add something like this, okay? By the way, I need to do this so that I can add files that were already there. And now let's just do a git commit message, and now this is a demo. There you go. And now what I need to do now, let's just push this. Let's try to push this. Like this. So this should send the files to the repo. Yep. So basically now if we refresh our browser, we should have our files here. See? So this is a demo. So this was the message that I put in my commit. I can click here, and then as you can see, look, I can just see the same file in here. Of course, this is the way that we should work, because we should work in teams. When I'm deploying this, I should have several persons working in the same ARM templates, because one is expert in the data part. Another one is expert on a security component. Another one in infrastructure. So one single ARM template might be developed by several persons in the same company. Okay. So now I'm going to project settings, and what I'm going to do now is to do a service connection. The service connection here, it's going to be basically a service connection to the Azure Resource Manager. So let's just put this ARM demo connection. It's just a name. The scope level, I can go subscription, or I can go to management groups. I'm just going to subscription, and in the subscription, if we just wait a little bit because it's still loading this. This takes like ages sometimes, okay, this window. So there we go. Okay, yeah, Azure training, yeah, that's the subscription that I want. And now resource group, I can just say what is the resource group that I can have and what is going to be the user, okay, that I'm going to use to deploy my stuff. I'm going to use this one here. There we go. And there we go. This is the one that I want, webinar. And I'll just press OK. So now I have a connection. Now I'm going to create a pipeline. And in the pipeline, in one of the tasks, I'm just going to say, hey, use that connection over there. Okay. I don't need anymore to say and to have permissions, okay, to do the connection to Azure and just do all that. So pipelines. So I don't have any pipeline, yeah, for sure. So new pipeline. So, and then in here, as you can see, so I created this and I'm going to use Azure Repos Git because this is where I have my code. But look, you can have it on GitHub, GitHub Enterprise, Subversion, Bitbucket, and even an external Git where you just need to basically to have the URL. So team project ARM webinar, yeah, that's the one that we created. This repository, this branch, I don't have any other one, but as you can know, in Git, you can have multiple branches, and you could just have, like, for example, one pipeline for one branch, another one for another branch. So this is like awesome what we can do with this. Then select the template. Look in here, if you're doing an pre-configured steps here, I'm going for the empty one, okay? So I don't want any help, because this is just one task, as you guys are going to see this. So there you go. Like, that's just going to add a new task here, and look, you have like hundreds of those in here. Like, this is so rich in terms of different ones that you can have here. I'm just going for the first ones here because the first ones will be the one that I want, which is this Azure Resource Group Deploy. I just need to have this. I click on it. And of course, look, you could just call it a more, let's just say, beautiful name than this one. I'm just going to stick with the default. To be honest, I'm not going to change that. I'm going to click here, available Azure service connections. There you go, ARM demo connection. This is our connection, okay? Super awesome. So let's go create and update a resource group. That's fine. What resource group? Well, because we created a service connections just for one, we're just going to have this one in here. Then what is the location? Okay, in our case will be West Europe. There we go. And now I have the template. Okay, what is the template? So just click here. There we go. So this is our files. This is the template. Then what is the template parameter file? Yeah, that's the one. Nothing to say there. Okay, and then, well, I'm just going to stick with the other default ones. Like, for example, you have an option here, which is the deployment mode. Incremental will just, for example, if you're going to redeploy this again, it will just find the differences and will just deploy the differences. If you say, for example, complete, the complete will smash the current deployment there. So it will delete everything there and it will just redeploy everything from scratch, okay? And I'm just fine with this. So right now I'm going to press save and queue. But before I do this, I'm just going for the other tab here and I'm going to refresh this. As you can see, there is nothing there, okay? If I go to deployments, as you can see, and I will refresh again, no deployments, okay? So let's go here, overview, okay? So I'm going to save and queue this. So save and queue. Again, I'm just going to use the default ones. Of course, in the real life, come on, just give proper names and fill in everything that you need. But in here, I'm not going to do that, just for time concerns here. So there we go. I'm deploying all of this. So the agent is ready for the job, is connecting. So let's just give it some time. So usually this is just a few seconds, don't worry about it. Ta-da-ta-da. Yeah, usually when we are not doing a demo, this is much, much faster. But because I'm doing a demo, I always say that Microsoft has something that takes more time for us to do the demos. There you go. Okay, so it's basically starting. So if I go here to Azure, okay, and probably if I refresh, you don't see anything yet. But if I go to the deployments blade and I press refresh, okay, we should see a deployment pretty soon getting here. Okay, there you go. Deployment name, ta-da-ta-ta-ta. So there you go. I mean, webinar. Yeah, there you go. See, it's here. So it's being deployed. You can click here and you can just keep up with the deployment. Okay, what the deployment is doing. And basically this deployment, like we said before, it's going to deploy two things. Basically, NAP service plan and a web app. So let's just refresh it. So there you go. The app service plan, it's there. It's deployed. Okay, and now it's probably deploying the web app. So if we refresh this, let's just see if we can see the web app getting there. But so this usually takes like a minute to deploy, a minute and a half, usually not that much more than that. Okay, so as you can see, it started at 7. There you go, have the duration here. So there you go. Okay, so it's done. So let's just close this. Let's just get back to overview. There you go. We have a web app here. And if I click in my web app, okay, and if I click in the URL of my web app that has this amazing name that I give, there you go. This is a blue screen, but this is a good blue screen. Okay, just saying that a wrap-up service is up and running. Of course, now I needed to deploy code. Okay, and okay, there you go. So as you can see here, okay, we have tracked everything. Okay, yeah, it was deployed. Everything was a success. If you go to builds, you can also see a green thing here. Okay, you can then get statistics on this of failed and successful builds. So all of that you can find over there. If I added, for example, this one here, and of course, after you deployed the infrastructure, I just can click plus here, and I can add another task here. Okay, like just add another one in here that is going to deploy the web app. And of course, then we can have the code of that web app even in another repo. Just need to grab the code and deploy over there like a second step. And of course, apply testing, apply all of this so that you can do all your CI, CD stuff. So you're in your pipeline. Okay. So a lot of tools that we talk about, I usually give like a link page. Okay, so I give you here some resources with some links that you can just download stuff and use it. Most of this, to be totally honest, it's free, or you can use it as they have like a freemium service. But for example, like a good one's here, it's the ARM template docs. This is like super useful. It's like, how the hell do I know what to put in the ARM template? Well, there you go. It's under the documentation that you have over there, the second one counting from the last, from the bottom. You can also do Azure Quick Start templates. This is a huge, when I say huge, it's really huge library of ARM templates. We're talking about hundreds of ARM templates that they are over there. They are free. You can just take them and use them as you wish. Of course, you're not going to find there the template exactly that you need, but you can find something pretty similar, and then you can then just grab that piece here, piece there, and then just change a little bit the thing. There you go, and you have your ARM template up and running for you. So I would like to thank everyone So like I said, my name is Tiago Costa, and this is how the way that you can arm your Azure infrastructure. Again, you have all my contacts there. Follow me on Twitter. You have my blog where you can find more information about Azure, and I usually tweet a lot also about Azure. Just to talk a little bit about the special offer for attendees on this webinar. So you can get 10% discount of any public virtual mock courses. Just go to that URL over there. You can also grab 10% discount on Microsoft certification role training. So those are the new role-based certifications that Microsoft had launched last September in Ignite. All the exams over there are live, so no more beta exams anymore. So you can just start to do this right away, and you should. Also, an app in dev cloud free briefing or question and answering, discuss your project or topic of interest, get a one-to-one briefing. And also a $99 transition certification exam voucher that will expire on June. So this is something that is a promotion also currently, that usually the price is a little bit bigger than just $99. Okay, and also 10% discounts in private on-site training. You can control Marta. You can grab our email there. So just bother Marta with all of this. She'll be happy to help you on all of this. And if you have questions, okay, you can always email to the general email that we have here on the webinar. And I would like to thank you everyone for today's webinar.
Hey, Tiago, I think there's a couple questions there for you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, yeah, I need to scroll this. Okay, got it. Let me just try to minimize the other ones. There you go. Yeah, so I have a question about if there is no need anymore for the system admins, network, well, admins, etc. The developer can do it all now. Well, no. Okay, we still need system administrators and network admins, etc. Because those are the ones that are going to set up all the infrastructure through ARM templates. And then, yeah, the developer then can just go on Visual Studio and can just say, hey, queue a new build of my project. And in the back, all that will happen. But all that magic will happen because a system administrator, a security administrator set it up, all that to happen. So they're not going to do it because the developer has, hey, I need a new infrastructure. We're going to give the opportunity to the developer to do that because it was set it up, okay, before by someone, okay. Yeah, okay, they emailed the links, it's done, then you think great stuff. If you have 10 templates, for example, is there a way to reference a template? Yeah, so yeah, of course. So the idea is, let's imagine that I have several templates. If there is a way to make a reference from one template inside a template, yeah, for sure. So this is something that you can, and sometimes you really going to need to do this. Okay, yeah, for sure. Okay, I think I answered all the questions.
I think you got them.